Hi, welcome to Insibook. What if the secret to peace is letting them? In the Let Them theory, Mel Robbins teams up with her daughter Sawyer to share a life-changing mindset shift. Stop chasing approval and start trusting yourself. It's bold, freeing, and exactly what we all need in a world obsessed with control. Let's dive in. There's a pervasive pattern we fall into, often driven by the best intentions. A deep-seated desire to help, protect, or guide. We see someone, perhaps a child, a colleague, an employee, or even a friend or partner, heading towards a potential stumble, a mistake, or a difficult experience. And instinctively, we step in. We intervene, we correct, we shield, we direct. We try to smooth the path, remove the obstacles, and ensure a favorable outcome. We manage, we control, we orchestrate. But what if this constant urge to manage, to intervene, to prevent every potential difficulty is fundamentally undermining the very growth and resilience we hope to foster? What if the most profound way to help someone learn, mature, and become truly capable is not through management, but through a radical act of trust and release? This is the essence of the Let Them theory. At its heart, this perspective invites us to reconsider our default mode of interaction. It challenges the deeply ingrained belief that success and well-being are primarily achieved through meticulous oversight and the elimination of risk or discomfort. Instead, it proposes that true development, genuine competence, and lasting resilience are often born from navigating challenges independently, learning from mistakes, and experiencing the natural consequences of our choices. It's a philosophy rooted in a profound respect for autonomy and a deep understanding of how learning truly happens. It's about recognizing that sometimes the greatest gift we can give is the space and the trust for someone else to figure things out for themselves. Think about the times you've felt overwhelmed trying to steer someone else's life, constantly offering advice they didn't take, trying to prevent mistakes you foresaw, or rescuing them from situations they perhaps needed to navigate themselves. There's an exhaustion that comes with this level of sustained intervention, a sense of pouring energy into efforts that might ultimately backfire. We might be creating dependency, fostering resentment, or simply preventing valuable learning opportunities. The alternative isn't indifference or neglect. It's a conscious, deliberate choice to step back, to allow, to trust that the individual possesses or can develop the innate capacity to learn, adapt, and overcome. It's about shifting our focus from controlling the outcome to creating an environment where positive outcomes are more likely to emerge organically from the individual's own efforts and experiences. This approach stems from understanding a fundamental aspect of human nature, our innate drive for competence and autonomy. When we are constantly guided, corrected, or rescued, that drive is often stifled. Imagine a young bird being constantly pushed out of the nest, rather than waiting for the moment it tentatively hops to the edge and eventually takes flight on its own. We might be trying to ensure the bird doesn't fall, but in doing so, we might also prevent it from ever discovering its wings. Similarly, when we consistently solve our children's problems, finish their tasks for them, or manage our employees' every move, we inadvertently communicate a lack of faith in their abilities. We might be sheltering them from failure, but we are also shielding them from the invaluable lessons that failure and the subsequent effort to overcome it teaches. The theory hinges on the power of consequences as teachers. Natural consequences, the direct results of an action or inaction, are often the most potent educators. If a child forgets their homework, the natural consequence might be a lower grade or a conversation with the teacher. If an employee makes a procedural error, the consequence might be a delay in a project or a need to redo some work. By stepping in to prevent these consequences, emailing the teacher on the child's behalf, fixing the employee's mistake without comment, we remove the learning opportunity. The individual doesn't fully connect their action or inaction with the outcome, and the lesson is lost. Letting them experience these consequences within reasonable boundaries of safety and ethical conduct allows them to internalize the connection between choices and results, fostering responsibility and self-correction. This isn't about adopting a hands-off approach devoid of guidance or support. It's about a crucial distinction between enabling growth and enabling dependency. Think of it as the difference between providing a scaffold that supports learning and building a cage that restricts it. Providing support might mean being available to answer questions, offering resources, setting clear expectations and boundaries, and providing constructive feedback when appropriate. But it doesn't mean dictating the exact steps, doing the work for them, or shielding them from every bump along the road. The scaffold is removed eventually, allowing the structure to stand on its own. The cage, however gilded, inhibits independent strength. Applying this perspective requires a significant internal shift. It means managing our own discomfort, the anxiety that arises when we see someone struggling, the impatience when they don't learn as quickly as we think they should, the fear of potential negative outcomes. It involves cultivating patience and developing a tolerance for imperfection, both in others and in the process itself. We need to trust that struggle is often a prerequisite for strength, that mistakes are stepping stones, not dead ends, and that individuals are more capable of finding their own way than we often give them credit for. This trust extends to believing in their inherent resilience, their ability to bounce back, adapt, and learn from adversity. Consider the domain of parenting. The "let them" theory encourages moving away from excessive hovering, the helicopter parenting, or clearing every obstacle from the path, the lawnmower parenting. Instead, it suggests allowing children age-appropriate opportunities to face challenges. This could mean letting a young child struggle momentarily to zip their coat, allowing a school-aged child to experience the consequences of not studying for a test, or permitting a teenager to navigate a social conflict with a friend without immediately jumping in to mediate. It's about providing the environment, the tools, and the loving support, but allowing the child to be the primary actor in their own life. We can ask guiding questions. What do you think you could do differently next time? Rather than providing the answer, we can focus on their effort and strategy rather than just the result. This builds self-efficacy, the belief in one's own ability to succeed in specific situations or accomplish a task, which is a cornerstone of confidence and competence. In the workplace, this philosophy translates into empowering leadership. Instead of micromanaging tasks, effective leaders trust their teams. They delegate not just tasks, but also the autonomy to decide how those tasks will be accomplished. They create space for experimentation, understanding that innovation often involves trying new approaches that might not always succeed. When mistakes happen, the focus shifts from blame to learning. What went wrong? What can we learn from this? How can we prevent it in the future? This fosters a culture of psychological safety where people feel comfortable taking calculated risks and learning openly. It encourages initiative, problem-solving, and ownership. A leader practicing the "let them" theory might offer strategic guidance or clarify the overall goal, but allows the team or individual employee the freedom to determine the best path forward, trusting their expertise and judgment. This not only leads to better outcomes, but also higher engagement and development within the team. Even in personal relationships, the principle holds weight. Resisting the urge to fix a friend's problems, to tell a partner what they should do, or to manage the choices of family members is a powerful application. It means listening without judgment, offering support without directives, and respecting their right to make their own decisions, even if we disagree with them or foresee difficulties. True support often looks like simply being present, offering a listening ear, or affirming their strength, rather than taking over. It acknowledges that each person is the ultimate authority on their own life, and that our role is to be a supportive presence, not a director. This approach, while sometimes feeling passive or difficult, honors the autonomy of the other person and strengthens the relationship by building trust and mutual respect. It avoids the common pitfalls of unsolicited advice that can feel like criticism or control. The underlying psychological mechanisms are compelling. Self-determination theory, for example, highlights autonomy, competence, and relatedness as key drivers of intrinsic motivation and well-being. Over-controlling behaviors directly undermine autonomy. By allowing individuals to make their own choices and direct their own actions, we nurture this fundamental need. Similarly, allowing them to grapple with challenges and achieve success through their own efforts builds a genuine sense of competence. The feeling of mastery that comes from overcoming an obstacle independently is far more powerful and lasting than any success achieved through external direction or intervention. Relatedness is maintained not by controlling others, but by offering supportive, non-controlling connection. Internalizing the "let them" theory requires confronting our own fears. We fear failure, not just for ourselves, but for those we care about. We fear regret, the potential guilt if something goes wrong that we could have prevented. We might even fear losing our sense of purpose or identity if we're not constantly needed as the fixer, the manager, the rescuer. Letting go requires acknowledging these fears without letting them dictate our actions. It means recognizing that our value isn't solely tied to our ability to control outcomes for others. Our value is also in our ability to trust, to support, and to allow others the space they need to become their best selves. This shift can be profoundly liberating, freeing up mental and emotional energy previously spent on excessive management. The process isn't always linear. There will be times when the instinct to intervene is overwhelming, especially when the stakes feel high. It requires ongoing practice, self-reflection, and a willingness to adjust. It also requires discernment. The let them theory is not a blanket endorsement of abandoning responsibility. It applies most powerfully in situations where the primary goal is fostering growth, independence, and resilience. It draws a line at situations involving immediate danger, significant harm, or serious ethical breaches, where intervention is clearly necessary. The art lies in discerning where the line is. Where does allowing consequences become neglect, and where does support become control? This line often depends on the age, maturity, context, and specific capabilities of the individual involved. Consider the metaphor of a gardener. A gardener doesn't force a plant to grow in a particular direction or dictate how big its leaves should be. They prepare the soil, provide water and sunlight, offer nutrients, and prune away diseased branches. They create the optimal conditions for growth, but they trust the inherent nature of the plant to reach for the sun, to develop its own structure, and to flourish. They observe, they nurture, but they don't control the fundamental process of growth itself. In the same way, we can be the gardeners of the people in our lives, providing the supportive conditions for their growth while respecting their innate trajectory and allowing them to reach towards their own potential. Another way to frame it is through trust. At its core, the let them theory is an expression of trust. Trust in the individual's capacity to learn. Trust in the learning process, even when it involves mistakes. Trust in resilience, the ability to overcome setbacks. Trust that allowing space for autonomy will ultimately lead to greater competence and self-reliance. This trust can feel like a leap of faith, especially when we are accustomed to a more directive approach. It requires us to shift our belief system from one based on control to one based on faith in potential. The journey of adopting this perspective often involves small experiments. Notice a situation where you typically jump in. Pause. Ask yourself, what might happen if I didn't intervene? What could they learn if they navigated this themselves? What are my fears about letting go here? Can I simply offer support or ask a question instead of giving an answer or taking over? Start with lower stakes situations and gradually build confidence. You might be surprised by the capability you witness and the relief you feel from stepping back. The benefits extend beyond the individual being allowed to grow. For the person practicing the let them theory, there's a potential for greater peace of mind, reduced stress, and improved relationships. By releasing the burden of controlling others' lives, we free ourselves to focus on our own growth and well-being. We can engage with others from a place of genuine support and connection, rather than from a place of anxiety and obligation. Relationships can become more authentic and less fraught with the tension of management and resistance. We learn to appreciate the unique journey of each individual, recognizing that their path doesn't have to mirror our expectations or preferences. Ultimately, this theory encourages a fundamental reevaluation of what it means to truly help someone. It suggests that sometimes the most helpful thing we can do is to get out of the way. It's about releasing our grip, trusting the process, and allowing individuals the space to discover their own strength, learn from their own experiences, and ultimately author their own lives. It's a challenging path, demanding patience, courage, and a deep well of trust, but the potential rewards, fostering capable, resilient, autonomous individuals, and cultivating more peaceful, authentic relationships, are immense. It's a quiet revolution against the pervasive culture of control, offering a path toward greater freedom, competence, and genuine human flourishing for everyone involved. It invites us to embrace the uncertainty, trust the inherent capabilities within each person, and discover the profound power found in simply letting them.